What's going on, everybody? This is Professor Crypto Banana. So, I watched the AMA with Liquid Driver, and they got into what's known as FNFTs. I'm super interested about this. It's like financial NFTs. No, it's not your regular art JPEG. This is more of how it applies to DeFi. So, when I heard that Revest Finance was partnering up with Liquid Driver, saw what it was all about, I had to grab Rob on here on a call with me, do an AMA, and just discuss more about like what's going on with this, what's the utility, the future that it brings, all that good stuff. But either ways, Rob, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit more
Professor.
about yourself and about
Absolute pleasure.
Revest.
Absolute pleasure to be here. So, as a personal introduction, my name's Rob Montgomery. I am actually only 27, if you can believe that, from Atlanta, Georgia, and I've been in crypto since roughly about 2012, 2013, right on the border in there. Got into it, funny enough, from the Minecraft server I was playing on way back in high school, and found out that because the server was heavily populated by libertarians, all about Bitcoin way before anybody else actually knew about Bitcoin. We, well, at that point, I was very interested in this. Figured, okay, this is the next big thing. Threw $100 at it. Lost one of those in an unspecified boating accident. Definitely unrelated to underage activities. And the other one was unfortunately rugged for me by Mt. Gox. Following that, been in and out of the industry over the years, mined Ethereum back in 2017, and came back in a big way in 2021. Founded a small validator, did fairly well. Went off to found a generative NFT. Well, I guess the best way to put it would be an interactive NFT project. That was a negative entropy. And following that, had the idea for Revest, kicked off, and here we are.
Nice. So for the audience, like they probably heard about NFTs. There's probably that stereotype, right? Or stereotype, or it's got a bad rep to it. That's like just an art JPEG, overpriced. It's a scam, etc. So by talking about FNFTs, the financial NFTs, what is it, and what utility does it bring to the DeFi space?
Absolutely. So the the primary thing that people think when they think of NFTs is the art. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the non fungible token means it can point to pretty much anything. I was actually just explaining this to someone who is very crypto illiterate this evening, and I brought him up to speed by kind of explaining that really NFTs, when you think of them in terms of art, they are just pointing to a URL that says, "Hey, I am art." But they don't have to just point to a URL. And that's what we at Revest Finance have done. We, instead of pointing them towards a URL, we have pointed them toward data concerning a financial instrument. In our case, that's often a vesting instrument. In Liquid Driver's case, it's kind of a staking instrument, a wrapper for a stake token. Um, we can do derivatives. We can do, I guess, what you would call an analog to bonds. There's all sorts of conventional illiquid financial instruments that you see in the traditional markets that hitherto have been functionally impossible. People have been trying to shoehorn them into ERC20 systems where you set let's say you have a token that has an expiration. Okay, well, now every single position has the same expiration. That doesn't make much sense. So what we at Revest decided to do is, okay, let's just make it truly non-fungible, just like it is in the real world. And to do that, we used the natural conclusion, which was NFTs.
So this is kind of like my understanding, because that was still like a lot of good technical in depth, right? But from like a 5-year-old perspective,
Very high
right?
level. All
Yeah,
it is we're using an NFT to represent a financial position.
there you go. Yeah, and by having an NFT, like each position is unique, right? Because like let's say on Liquid Driver, I want to lock up my tokens for 2 years. Okay, then I got an NFT for a certain amount specific for that, can't be duplicated. But then I could come up and be like, oh, by the way, I also want to do another position for 1 year. Now I have multiple ones, can't be duplicated. It is unique individual aspects, correct?
Exactly. It's like trying to compare. Oh, I hate to go back to art, but it's like trying to compare the Mona Lisa to any other thing that Da Vinci did. They're two different paintings. There's no comparison. Just because they were created by the same person does not make them identical.
Right. So then why now? You know what I'm saying? Because like there's always been NFTs. They've been around for a while. Has like a new type of ERC token come out that allows this innovation to happen? Like why is it all of a sudden Revest stepped up and is doing this and a different project hasn't already done this already?
That is a very good question. And that is exactly the question I found myself asking when I was starting Revest, to be completely honest with you. It seemed a little bit insane that no one had already filled this niche, that there was not someone already here. And from from what I can gather, it's a bit of a perfect storm. ERC 721. So ERC 20 is a very early standard. ERC 721 is a slightly later standard. ERC 1155 is, it comes after 721, so obviously it's later, but it actually came about 2017, 2018. It's not that new.
Hmm.
And 1155 is what we use. It's just that I don't think that prior to DeFi summer, anyone quite realized what all of this was going to be used for, what the real applications of blockchain technology and Ethereum were going to be, the EVM. A lot of people were playing around with various different ideas, but it really took that one instant in time to hit. And then suddenly people got it. Suddenly people realized this is actually a separate financial system from CeFi. This is a recreation of CeFi in a totally different space. So once that got kickstarted, people started revisiting some of the older concepts. And of course, they started with ERC20 because that's the most simple. And for the longest time, everyone was squeezing things into ERC20 because it's very common. It's very high utilization. Everyone can support it. And I would say that really until the art NFT revolution showed up, there was not a lot of interest in NFTs at all. So in a way, we actually owe a lot of our existence to the proliferation of the art craze, because without the art craze, there wouldn't be the amount of marketplaces there are. There would not be the amount of interest that there is. There wouldn't be the commonality of standards. And when Revest showed up, we showed up at precisely, in my opinion, the right time to capitalize on that, standards becoming widespread transition, and that transition to, oh, wait, we've been doing things in an incredibly roundabout and complicated way when there's a much better solution out there.
Is this kind of like Pong in a sense, where like NFTs started off with, let's say, CryptoPunks, etc. It's like, oh, this is cool. Look at what we can do. But it was just the beginning step, similar to how Pong, you got the ball, but then you can see how video games evolve. Do you see like NFTs, FNFTs evolving to a similar fashion where they go in a
Yeah,
certain direction?
I would absolutely say that. I would say that where we are right now is, I hate to draw the comparison because everyone does, but .com. Um, pets.com, for lack of a better example. Sure, there are better ones, but it's the concept where you're just kind of spitballing ideas at a wall to see what sticks. I feel like that's where the NFT industry is right now, is a lot of different ideas are being tried. And you've got some real winners in there. You've got the Amazons mixed in. I believe we're one of the Amazons. Of course I do. I'm the guy who came with the idea. But you've got the real winner ideas mixed in there, but there's a lot of flack. There's a lot of chaff. There's a lot of other ideas rolling around. And as we move forward in time and people begin to get a better idea of, hey, what are these things going to actually be used for? Art is it's an interesting use case, but it's very speculative, and it's not a very large market globally, which suggests that it may not be a large market in the blockchain space. I don't know. Not a fortune teller, but my opinion is that it makes far more sense to utilize these things as financial instruments or reference points. It's actually the very first thing I thought of when I heard about NFTs. Is like, oh yeah, someone will use that for financial stuff. Someone will use that for deeds to a house. And as it turns out, that someone's me, and that's really quite cool. To be honest with you.
That is, yeah. So let's talk about like more of a simplified utility of it, like the benefits, because I know some, but then obviously you can go into like more details as you were just mentioning the deeds to a house. I'm like, what? Because from a simplistic standpoint, you can have, let's say, value locked in a position or in an FNFT that locks after a certain time, but after that time frame, it's going to be worth something. So you can say, hey, I want to borrow against it, right? And it could be accruing yield. So then you can do leverage trading. So that in and of itself, I think is already big, right? How you can like borrow against it, leverage trading, sell something that would normally be locked. You're like, I have to wait a year. Oh, wait, I can actually exit out my position and give it to somebody else. Like that is already how I just see it in the short term. Can you elaborate on kind of how it could go even further in the long term?
Predicting the future is always a difficult thing. I have a lot of ideas though. So, what Revest fundamentally is beyond just being a value storage system, it is a protocol. It is a way to take any given financial position and place an FNFT on top of it to add that layer of abstraction. In my opinion, the biggest value add that Revest brings to the table is the flexibility to do that without having to do a ton of your own back end and front end code to create the FNFT. We wrote an extremely modular system to the point that you can just slap a subsystem on top of Revest in the DeFi Lego sense, and suddenly your yield farm has FNFTs. Suddenly, Liquid Driver is probably the best example we have so far. Suddenly, your yield aggregator, your liquidity aggregator, has a system by which it can trade this locked value. That's entirely powered by the APIs that we put together. And for those of you who don't know, API means application programming interface. It's a way of integrating third-party systems into a standard. The analogy that I love to give is that Revest is in many ways the Stripe of NFTs and crypto. It is a ready-made graphical solution that has heavy on-chain underpinnings with standardization built into those, that allows anybody who wants to have an FNFT on top of an existing system to add one in, or who wants to build an FNFT-based system to build one in, all without having to do their own development on the front end, all without having to do their own development on the back end. All they have to do is deploy a contract, drop in a few packages from our SDK, and they're good to go.
So it's really quick. Like in translation, it's you have a development team. It takes a long time to do. It's like why reinvent the wheel when they can come to your side, have the kind of like software, the tools already set up, and they're off to the ground running and done.
Exactly. Liquid Driver, their integration took less than a week. Actually, that was quite impressive to see. It was very much a validation of what we've been working toward. In terms of applications, and I think that's kind of part of what you were getting at, there are an absolute ton.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Options are on our roadmap, and I've already got the prototype for that. I'm honestly at this point just waiting for somebody to put together a quality FNFT marketplace, and I might be working with somebody. Paintswap. We've talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see where that leads. We've got some more exotic option ideas that we've been playing around with. We'll see where that leads. It's not exactly an option. It's kind of a pseudo option. It leads to some really weird areas. Obviously, liquidity locking. That was our bread and butter at launch, and we've not abandoned that. We've more just expanded our offering, but that still remains one of our core concepts. So, token investing, mergers, acquisitions, core systems that you see a lot in CeFi, but you do not see a lot in DeFi yet. We think we can power those. What I'm really just most excited about, though, is the ability to separate interest and principal. And those are some of the underpinnings of, I would say, easily 50% of the existing financial system is powered by those concepts. You get into what you can do with the rights to interest on a yield-bearing system and what you can do with the rights to principal on a yield-bearing system, and you end up with the underpinnings for constant interest rates, underpinnings for upfront payments, all sorts of really odd structured products I had never heard the names of until me and my private equity buddy started talking about these things. Suddenly I'm getting hit with a term like defeasance. I never even heard of that in my life. There are a very wide variety of systems that we can build with these tools, since they allow us to, take these existing components and further granularize them.
So it's pretty much that the regular financial world, they've had plenty of time to come up with their own system with derivatives, options, as you're talking about interest and principal, and I don't even know what term you just used, defeasible. It was
Defeasance, yes.
defeasance.
I'd not heard of this until a week ago myself.
Exactly. So you're more providing the tools, and then you're looking at other projects. Like if you want to copy the same concepts from traditional finance over to DeFi, we're providing you that opportunity and that ability to do so.
It's not just that we're providing the opportunity, so we're probably providing them a common standard that works on all existing NFT marketplaces, development-free GUI, embedded Web3 app. You can see that on Liquid Driver. You flip the card over, and it's literally just got the FNFTs interface to claim your rewards right there, built right into it. That comes prepackaged. So all they have to do is write the solidity, and then they're off to the races. And they've got an option, they've got a future, and we are doing this ourselves. It's something of a tech showcase. We build products on top of our own systems. In fact, that is going to be our next big project, is something building on top of Revest that will serve as both a generator of revenue for the system and a demonstration of the links that the tech can be developed to.
So one thing is I get like really excited about all the possibilities, everything that's happening here. However, I try to like mention this and I'm not getting the type of same reaction that I would expect. Have you noticed that as well? Is it like slower to gain traction? Like looking at other projects, because I would see, for example, with Curve, right? Curve has locked in features, and I would see that this would be just a perfect fit. And I go crazy because I'm looking at the Fantom ecosystem side, right? And a lot of different projects, Liquid Driver, In Spirit. I think even Beats now is going to locked funds. I don't know if you like even were able to discuss with them. I see this trajectory, and I'm just curious as to why. Like, am I too early? Am I too hyped? I don't know what. Like, what are your thoughts?
Why have you not heard about it? You're saying.
Exactly. Like why haven't I heard about it? And why is this not like just everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is the next big thing?
You want me to be honest?
I do. Yeah.
You're early. That has been my opinion since we started this and since we got to where we are. Is ever since I started this project, it has been a very interesting situation. We've had calls with over 40 venture capitalists during our raise process, and I cannot possibly describe the amount of blank stares and just total lack of comprehension that I got. We found a few who did get it, and they got it in a big way. They were very much all about it. That's how we pulled down what we did. But I think at this point in time, it's a lot like trying to explain what an NFT is to somebody in 2019. Oh yeah, what the heck is this CryptoPunk thing? Oh, it's just art? What? Why would I care about that?
Right.
It's a semi-complicated concept. It's not that complicated, but it is still an additional layer of abstraction on the existing layer of abstraction. And if I had to say why it's been a little bit slower to catch on, it would be the existing hype around NFTs. People have a very strict idea of what an NFT is, and so anything that challenges that paradigm is confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And well, if we're talking about Ethereum, gas fees.
Yeah.
Fantom has been an absolute mecca for us. We've had a great deal of success here. It's funny you mentioned some of the people you did, because there are a few things in the pipelines. I can't say them yet, but there are a few things in the pipelines. The gas costs on Ethereum are absolutely brutal. Combined with the just absolute glut of people developing right now. I mean, have you, I guess a good example. I mean, yeah, I think I'll go with this one because I feel like we're in a similar realm. Have you seen Aave and their price history?
I know that they're more of a lending protocol. They're kind of like the OGs, but that's like more on the Ethereum side, they've done it different blockchains. I think they just came over to Fantom, like finally, right?
Yeah. But have you seen their actual price history?
No, I have not.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's they launched right at the tail end of the 2017 bull run. Totally ignored. Nobody cared. No one cared at all about them. Who are
Mhm.
these guys? Why are they important? And over the course of the bear, you see them slowly ramping up, and then suddenly it clicks. And if I'm being honest, well, first of all, I don't think that we are looking at that kind of a bear market again. I
Let's
don't
hope
think we're
not.
heading into that. I
Yeah, let's hope
genuinely
not.
think that I no, I feel like the tech in the industry has progressed enough that we are in what we are in right now, and that is what we are. Even if we were to hit a global recession at this point, I honestly think crypto would bounce back faster than the stock market.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about that, about like risk on, risk off, inflation, etc., which that's a whole other concept, right?
When's the last time you talked to somebody who really trusted a bank?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or even the yields, you know what I'm saying?
that's
Like
my
that's why I
thesis.
think,
Oh, go
yeah,
on.
exactly. So, but let me ask you this. Why do you think that locking up tokens just in general is kind of like a big thing for different protocols? You know, like you look at Curve, I'm now seeing on the Phantom side different trends with the locking. You know, you got the Spirit Swap, now Beats, Liquid Driver. What's the benefit of locking, and why do you think like a lot of projects are gravitating towards that?
Myself and a friend from I've got this buddy. He's involved with these like with this very large firm that does large investments in crypto. Literally, just met him in a group chat and started talking. He and I were actually discussing this earlier this week in regards to what we're working on right now, Project Resolve, and that's the code name. That's not going to be the real name, but it is a project. And he and I were talking, and basically that exact kind of question came up, and the answer is that the interface between illiquidity and liquidity is always a very active area in finance. If you look at the traditional markets, that is exactly the underpinnings of the bond system. Bonds are illiquid. Obviously, stocks are far more liquid. Real estate is illiquid, but bouncing back and forth between those two, the place where they meet, that is one of the most active hubs of commerce on the planet.
Hmm.
And I would say that to a point drives the interest in locking, just the sheer similarity between the two. Locks are the underpinnings of all derivatives. You cannot have a derivative without having a lock. So, I
Got
mean,
it.
if you have a covered call, you have a lock. You have liquidity that is locked up and cannot be used because it has to be used to cover the call option. Um,
Is it more of just like you need some asset, you need something of value underneath it before you try to do anything a little extra crazy on
yeah.
top?
Otherwise, you're trading on margin, and it ends in absolute catastrophe
Snowball.
when cascades begin. So people want that security. I would say that is definitely a big component of it. If you're a protocol, then you want people to lock up their tokens to reduce your liquidity. And reducing your liquidity means that there is less supply. And if you have the same amount of demand, that results in a higher price, which I don't fully agree with price optimization as a goal. I understand why it is a goal in the current space. Like, number go up, people get excited.
Right.
However, I don't think that's a very good judge of long-term potential for any project. Um, I would say look at the team, look at the fundamentals. That's how I judge things when I invest.
Right. And that's what a lot of projects do, right? They'll say, like, okay, lock up and we'll give you a lot of extra tokens. And it's kind of like a nice little dance. But that's where I saw the FNFT step in and say, like, okay, the protocol, they get their funds. So they're happy. And then at the surface level, people can swap between each other and say, like, okay, you want the position, you want this. So in a way, like everybody's happy. That's just how like I see it in essence.
It solves the problem of illiquidity without, you know, undoing the problem that illiquidity seeks to solve. I mean, if we're to, so there are several reasons to do illiquidity in terms of actual locks beyond just staking. I mean, okay, let's say that I am the team. in fact, I am the team, so this works well.
Yeah.
I have locked Revest tokens because the community wanted to make sure that I could not, just go out and dump those tokens on the market after the raise. And to me, that's a reasonable thing to want.
Mhm.
You don't want the team just exiting and no longer doing work on the project. You want them to have an incentive to continue working on it over time. And to me, the idea of having having those tokens locked up, that's a good idea. However, when we're looking at traditional finance, we see acquisitions being an extremely common component of that. And the problem of locked tokens and non-transfer packages is precisely that. You cannot transfer the ownership if you get acquired. So that was something we sought to solve, and that I would say we've successfully solved. Because, well, if your tokens are locked, they're necessarily worth less than they would be otherwise. When we're talking about liquidity tokens, it gets even more interesting because liquidity tokens are the keys to the city in a lot of ways. They are, the ability to control the protocol's tradability. Ideally, you are working toward, having truly decentralized liquidity. That is actually something that Revest is pursuing. But you don't want, especially at the start, you do not want the people who have the liquidity to be able to access the liquidity tokens, because if they're in a non-team, they can very easily rug you. So that was one of the other goals that Revest set out to solve, is locking liquidity tokens, but at the same time allowing a team, if they want to get acquired, to be able to exit fully from a project by transferring the rights to those liquidity tokens to whoever's acquiring them. That allows for the more classical acquisitions in a truer sense. And it also protects the market because those tokens are still locked. You've sold the NFT that contains them. You haven't touched the underlying. And even the guy who's getting the FNFT, he can't touch it until it unlocks either. He's stuck with the same terms that you got. You'll probably get paid less than they're worth, but hey, you're out. Who cares? You got money. And, he got in at a better price than he would have. Everyone's happy.
It's almost as if it's a over-the-counter deal.
That's precisely what we are seeking to replace with this system. OTCs. OTCs are great. They're very healthy for a project. I hear people saying, OTCs, not healthy, bad. OTCs are great. Here's why. Let's say that I bought into a project as a seed round investor at $1, and that project goes up to $15 by the time I get my unlock. Okay, I bought in at $1. I'd be insane not to sell. So I'm going to sell, and I'm going to crash the spot market. I've got a lot of tokens. Tough. I have to take my money. I got responsibilities to myself. However, let's say the market went up to $20 during the lockup period. I can go ahead, find somebody who's willing to, pay me $17 for the rights to my future unlock. I say, okay, here are the FNFTs that contain this. Have fun. I'm out. Thanks for the money. Bye-bye. I'm still making a huge profit. This guy now, he's got a $17 cost basis, though, per token. And when the tokens unlock and the price is $15, he's going to look at the market and say, I'm in the red. I'm not going to sell. And so that allows the cost basis for a position to be increased while the position is illiquid. And that is extremely good for the health of the underlying asset.
But then also, if let's say you're a whale, right? And you don't just say, okay, the price is at 20, I sell, and I'm going to get everything at 20, right? Because wouldn't the average of it drop because you're swapping out? So you could technically still take it, and maybe at the end you'd still be getting an average of $17. But at this point, at least the chart looks healthy, because obviously when somebody looks at the chart, it's going down. People are like, what happened? Just could be somebody's like, as you said, I want to exit my position, but now you just spooked the market completely, and oh my gosh.
Exactly. It allows you to avoid those negative side effects entirely. You can keep part of your position in the market, liquidate a component of it, and avoid the negative side effects that you would have caused by dumping on the market.
So that'd be very healthy for like just projects and developers looking at it. Like probably normal people are like, okay, yeah, kind of, but it's an important point because I'm sure like projects, the cost of the charts are going up. You're like, yeah, don't ruin it, but somebody's got to take profits, so that is indirectly beneficial.
I've had these conversations with VCs before, and they've been quite happy about the idea of being able to sell this off to somebody else, but not crash the spot market.
Interesting. Yeah,
And I,
because a lot of the times you get in because you like the project, right? You don't want
yeah.
to hurt it, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do. So interesting.
I like the idea of being able to, yeah,
Exit silently, more or
exit
less.
silently, not hurt the project.
Agreed.
Me, I haven't sold a single token, but hey.
Ooh, there you go. Well, actually, that's a great next question. Is you mentioned Fantom. Currently, I notice that this token is only on Ethereum. Now, granted, gas fees are really nice right now, but who can say in the future it could reach up 150? Are you coming over to Fantom? Like, which blockchains are you looking at? What's the kind of strategy? Can you drop down some info for me?
We are.
Ooh,
So I won't talk too much about Project Resolve. I will tell you its actual. I'll tell you the actual release name. It's going to be Resonate. The real name is Resonate.
okay.
Um, we're going to be doing. I should not talk about the tokenomics. Let's just say that project will result in us having the ability to bridge Revest to Fantom, get Revest on Fantom, and start trading. Start having the token here. Start having the staking system here too. We have a plan. Oh, if I'm being honest, we have several plans. Still haven't internally decided which one we're going with. But the goal is to be able to keep the revenue generated on Fantom. And what we're looking at right now is basically we bridge. Right now we're going to make it so people can bridge their FNFTs. That is the goal. There's no, I cannot guarantee that will be the outcome at first, but long term, that is the goal, is to be able to bridge the FNFTs between chains themselves. So if you have a staking position on Ethereum, okay, no. Now you got a staking position on Fantom, and only on Fantom, and you get the revenue generated on Fantom. You're on Ethereum, okay, well, you only get the revenue generated on Ethereum, or any chain that is bridging to Ethereum that isn't Fantom, I guess. So Polygon, AVAX, maybe a few others.
And then what is the max supply? I assume like that's not going to
100
inflate.
million, and that is a constant value. We do not
Constant
have a
value.
mint method. It was in fact in the it was those tokens were created the moment that that contract was deployed, and we cannot touch that ever again.
Gotcha. So how much is in circulation right now? It's probably, I think it was like 50% or
I
so.
believe it is around 65% at this point.
65.
Let me
And then
my favorite place to look at this is Volcania, since they have, and shout out to my buddy who's involved in them. Not going to name names, but you know who you are. Yeah, Volcania has a really good system that dynamically tracks how much is circulating. They say 65.3% right
okay, interesting.
now. Mm-hmm.
And okay, this may be a little bit off topic, but how many developers and people are on the Revest team currently?
All right, give me a second to count. It's around 10, I want to say.
10. Okay.
Yeah. We have people come in. We've had a few people going out, but we've stayed around that number. That number has been a pretty good number for us.
Nice. And then I don't want you to drop down too much information, not slip out anything, but sounds like you got some partnerships already. I was looking at the Twitter page. I already saw one partnership got officially announced. Are you talking to a lot of different projects on a lot of different chains? Like what's man, I'm just curious. I'm just trying to get whatever I can.
We've got some folks we're in conversations with.
Gotcha.
Can't release any specifics quite yet. We've got, I mean, in terms of the projects we partnered in the past, we've got a fairly large roster. I think it's around like 15, 20 projects at this point. In terms of those partnerships that have really panned out in the biggest sense, I would say, 4 or 5. And that is one of the things I've learned in crypto is it's best to announce a partnership when you have something solid.
Official.
That is what we did with Liquid Driver. That is what we've done with Spirit Swap. And I could not be happier with those two. They are fantastic. We are we're in talks with a few folks on Fantom who are doing other work. Nothing quite, fully ready.
Mhm.
We're in talks with a few folks on Ethereum who are doing some other stuff that's fairly interesting, and might have something to do with the work we just did with Liquid Driver. As it turns out that that system we wrote for them does in fact work for all existing Curve forks. And you may be familiar with the current, I don't want to say exploit, bug going on with Curve and Curve
I,
derived contracts.
I heard a little bit about it, but I don't know too much about it.
Our system allows you to permanently solve that bug.
Hmm.
Yes. So it is, in fact, I believe, the only permanent solution for that bug.
Dang.
Yes.
Another interesting thing I saw on a Twitter thread was the potential to use these NFTs as a bet, even like having the ability to, let's say, have an oracle look at the price. So, an example would be you're taking a look at a price of a token, let's say Fantom, and you say, you know what, by the end of the year, it's going to be $10. You have an oracle, and then if it reaches that point that it unlocks for that person, and then it could open up the opportunity to like sell it, could be like going down. You're like, oh, this is not going to happen. So somebody like jumps in and takes that at a discount, etc. Is that true, or is that kind of far
Well,
fetched there?
so it's not something that we're actively working on. Most of our efforts right now are going toward Resonate. Um, but it is something that is very possible, very easy. Honestly, that would take me about half an hour to write the solidity for it. It's not a hard system to solve. You have
Dude,
two
you
FNFTs. You
yeah.
have an address lock that's based on an oracle measuring the price of a token with a date that it needs to be measured at. And then you wait until that date, you make your measurement, and one person gets the value.
Yeah, so you could set it where like, okay, only give two addresses, and based on the condition, a certain address is able to access the funds from that FNFT.
Oh, what you probably end up doing is minting two different FNFT series and then
Ooh.
saying, we're going to give the value to one of these. Our output receiver system does have a transactional layer built into it, so it can do that, provided they both come from the same output receiver.
See, so everybody listening, like this is just an example how I have a basic understanding, and then I just get so hyped to think about all the potential. Because think about it this way, just anybody listening, right? Like there's certain application protocols out there that can like do betting, but it's not really trusted. Whatever. Imagine like a protocol that implements FNFTs for this type of betting system that Rob just mentioned. Like this is just one, like right off the like. See, I get excited.
You
Okay,
can use any oracle for this, by the way.
oh, so like yeah, Chainlink and
Not just
probably a good one.
prices. Not just prices.
Explain, because I'm not
Oh, I
under.
mean, you can make the condition for an address lock anything in the world. If you can put the data on chain, then you can use it as an if else condition. Let's
Hmm.
say I wanted to have an FNFT. Okay, I'm a bet man is going to land on the moon by 2023. Again, I have an Oracle off chain, Chainlink provided. We're partnered. Well, what's the word? We're powered by Chainlink. That's their word. Uh, I use a Chainlink Oracle to put that data on chain at the moment of measurement. Chainlink doesn't have to just be prices, so I get that data on chain. I can settle the bet via that. It's done.
See, so this is like the whole utility aspect, right? Okay, but then here's another great question, right? Because if you look at any project, you can say that's great utility, but what about the revenue, Rob? Like you're part of looking at Revest Finance, and it's like, okay, you got a lot of great stuff, but if I want to actually get the Revest token, it's like a business. How am I going? How's this going to make money? How am I going to make money
So
by investing?
100% of all of the revenue that Revest produces is given directly to our stakers. I believe the docs still say 99. That's an error. It's 100. And what that's currently looking like is actually, as of today, we have signed an agreement with some friends over at Pocket to secure a $5,000 plus revenue stream for the foreseeable future. That will be in concert to the significant revenue stream we are seeing from our work with Liquid Driver as that ramps up. And of course, being that we're starting from having no Liquid Driver locked in there, we've seen quite the week actually. I haven't actually updated our adapters with DeFi Llama to measure how much TVL we've gotten there, but easily can tell you it's probably over 100,000. Liquid Driver has been fantastic. I love those guys.
Hey, I do
So,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
1% of that revenue comes to our stakers. Partnership we've got with Spirit, and y'all will be seeing that fairly soon. That should pull down a few hundred thou. There's a fair number of different streams that we're working on. The stuff on Ethereum, probably going to be a 1% fee, 0.5% fee starting fairly soon. And the revenue system is just getting spun up.
So I'm sure like there's different combinations as to how you can combine for like how you generate revenue, right?
Very much so. It is an individual thing we do with everyone we partner with. We choose a different way to charge them. For Liquid Driver, it was 1% of the rewards plus one Fantom. For Spirit Swap, it is something slightly different that I will leave to them to announce when that system goes live. For, well, I guess Spirit Swap and NFT Garage, since that's the primary, well, initial application. For our work with vesting, it's around a 0.5, 0.3% fee of the total tokens locked up. For our work with Pocket, it's around $5,000 to $10,000 a week in revenue, thereabouts. For our work with Resonate, oh, you'll see.
Exciting stuff to look forward to. But then how does, like, you're saying 100% of the revenue goes to the stakers, correct?
Exactly.
So then a natural question would be, what's in it for, let's say, you, Rob, and also your team of 10? How are they generating an income revenue? Like, what is their benefit here?
So we started off with the raise, and I would say that was a fairly good runway to begin with. Team tokens are really what I would say is one of the big things that we have is we can stake those. You know, we have the ability to take part in that revenue generation as well. There are no limits on our ability to utilize the tokens which we were given in exchange for, you know, developing the entire system to tap into the revenue streams. Let me think. In terms of several of our contractors, those folks are more directly paid via Revest itself. We have a internal company treasury. Well, I guess protocol treasury, calling a company with the wrong thing since we are moving toward a DAO, and people are paid out via that. We kept a chunk of the Ethereum accrued through the raise process for use as a rainy day / development fund, and it has been put toward its intended use.
I see. And then how much of the team allocation, how much does the team have in terms of like token of?
In terms of the team allocation, initially, I don't know what the values are now off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It was 10% shorter term. So I believe that was 6-month vesting period and 10% long-term vesting, which I believe extends out to 18 months to 2 years. Cannot remember off the top of my head which of the longer time periods that one went into. But we set it up so that it was structured for a fairly long dispersal over time.
Understood. Okay, so for this next part, I just want to do a quick tutorial as to the whole Revest website. If you're, still got time to just like take a look and explain the website a little bit.
More than happy to. Go ahead and click Mint.
All right.
If you go ahead and get the token address for Brush from MetaMask, then you should be able to paste that in. It'll automatically load Brush. Go ahead and choose a small amount of Brush up front.
I'll just do, I guess, 1. Or I'd want to do even less, like 0.1.
You need to do 0.1 on the left side.
Fair enough.
There you go.
Okay.
So choose an unlock date. What do you say, like a week in advance?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, click approve. And it'll ask to spend your brush, as any typical website would.
Okay, so it got approved. Says that it's ready to mint. So I'm gonna click mint here. And then here it seems like there is the fee of 3 Fantom for this specific one.
Indeed. So that one will cost 3 Fantom. And you will now be able to have your brush locked into an FNFT. It'll show up right in the gallery. You can see all the options as you normally would. And if you were interested in locking up some liquid driver, which I don't think you have right now, then I could show you all the features added to that one. Or I could just send you a link if you'd like to see one of the live FNFTs used for liquid driver.
Sure. Yes. Send me the link and then. Oh, okay, cool. So here's my brush.
Here's your new FNFT.
There we go. And it's locked. Does anybody want to buy my locked NFT? Okay, so it seems like you can do a lot. Oh, you can transfer it right here.
Exactly. You can withdraw it when it becomes mature. And you only have one copy, so you'll never be able to withdraw one. If you had time extensions or any of those things turned on, you'd see them here. And we're working on overhauling this interface to allow it to rotate the way it does on Liquid Driver, probably with the ability to grow. It'll be a very pretty one.
Nice.
Okay, so this is a Liquid Driver FNFT, and as you can see, it knows that it contains xLQDR Driver. It knows that it contains, exactly this amount of xLQDR Driver. And if you scroll down, it knows exactly how much liquid driver it actually contains as well. This one's been locked for a fairly short period, which is why it contains such a teeny little amount of xLQDR Driver. Somebody hasn't realized they need to relock this FNFT quite yet. But if you were the owner, you'd be seeing several buttons. One that would say deposit additional to this FNFT, another that would say, extend the lock. It'll let you extend the lock out to the liquid driver max limit. And as you can see, it's also listing the rewards that are available. If you own this FNFT right now, you'll be seeing a small button that says claim rewards. And you can claim all of these rewards just by clicking that button. Single ERC20 transaction, well, not single, but single transaction that you submit, and then a half dozen ERC20 transfers to your wallet. But all very streamlined, all very compact, and you can sell the entire package whenever you want.
So then you would sell this FNFT, and if you take a look at it, it could have a lot of assets and rewards that are unclaimed potentially. So you're like, oh, okay, yes, I got a certain amount of liquid driver tokens or xLQDR that I'll unlock on March 26th. But oh my goodness, this has an extra like 10 Fantom locked in here that maybe the person didn't realize, or while it's been on the marketplace, it's been actually accruing value, which would probably add into like more aspects, like a loan that pays itself off potentially. Like, man, goes back to those options.
You're touching onto some interesting ideas right there, Professor. Who knows where those ideas might go? So click the Mint FNFT number 1. Okay. That'll expand the dropdown. And we're going to say, let's just lock up 0.1 Fantom per FNFT and 10 FNFTs of that exact same system. So now you're locking up 1 Fantom total. So as you can see, we start off with an address lock, and the address lock has an unlock date of the 19th, which I believe is going to be 2 days in the future tomorrow in terms of GMT, which is what this is based on. So if you're in the UK, it is already the 18th, so it chooses the 19th. In terms of a value lock, that is going to be a lock that unlocks when the price of the underlying asset compared to the next asset. So go ahead and you can choose at what price you would like this to unlock at in terms of Fantom.
And so it's got to make sure it definitely happens.
Well, that'll unlock immediately.
Oh, really? Okay.
10 cents.
Oh, I thought it was based on time, though. Oh,
No,
this is specific on value. Gotcha.
The value lock. But let's go to address lock, and let's choose a combo lock, actually. Yeah. So this is utilizing one of our more advanced systems, which allows these address locks that are very general things to automatically create their own forms in the UI. And this is all based on on-chain template, which is actually quite cool if you're a developer. So with this one, you can choose an unlock date and you can choose an asset to get the price of relative to another. And even more interesting, you can choose whether you want it to unlock at an and or an or. And if you click show advanced settings, we can see some of the more esoteric stuff. You can do enable multiple deposits, which would allow you to deposit additional tokens to this FNFT. You could do enable splits, which would allow you to split it into smaller ones. You could do send funds to a different address, and that is the output receiver system, which you really should not touch unless you're a developer. Set as non-transferable, that's for vesting solutions where people don't want to be transferable. And enabling batch distribution allows you to copy paste a list of addresses and values of how many FNFTs you want to give that address. Very similar to disperse.app if you're familiar with it.
Can I ask you a question though? So with this non-transferable FNFT, this means that only your wallet can unlock this, correct?
Yes, it does. It means you cannot transfer the FNFT.
Would this potentially be great for, let's say, security purposes?
Yes, it
Where
would
like
actually.
you're like, I don't want to get hacked, even if a hacker comes into my stuff. Like, dude, like I need this for Christmas presents, and only like 2 days before, let that stuff unlock as USDC. I don't want any hackers getting into it. Would
Yeah,
that be a potential solution there?
yeah, that actually would be a potential solution. We've actually we haven't seen that particular system come into use yet, but we have seen hackers in one instance access a user's wallet without his permission, steal everything but his FNFTs because they didn't know what they were, and he made it out just fine. He came back a few weeks later, took them out. It's worth more than the rest of his wallet. They had no clue.
There you go. Yeah, that that does happen sometimes. Eh? Okay, so then you can configure additional, and then you probably like approve and mint it.
Okay. With the Explorer page, what you're looking at is you are looking at every single FNFT that relates to a certain token. So in this case, we're looking at every system that has W Fantom locked inside it. And you can see, different amounts of W Fantom. Sometimes people own multiple of these. That might not be just 20 W Fantom. Might be 100 if there are 5 of them. If you click on one of them, it'll show you more details about the FNFT itself, and we can learn more about what's going on inside it. So in this case, you selected one of the W Fantom systems, and as you can see, only one of those exists. That is ID2, which is probably a test system, and it'll allow you to take a look at the Paintswap one as well. You can see it's open in a separate tab, and yeah, this is the FNFT itself. What you'll notice is on Paintswap, some of our more important subsystems are a bit broken. This is unfortunately just a consequence of Paintswap themselves and the need for security. So you cannot flip the FNFT over on Paintswap. On any other system you could, and it would show you details about the FNFT. For example, on Liquid Driver, you can view all of the interactions that you can view on any typical info modal for the FNFT on the reverse, but Paintswap unfortunately disables that. So if you click the flip over arrow, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
If you can, I think control clicking it does the trick though. Yes, there you go. And as you can see, it'll open it right back up for you. And here we are, back where we started.
All right, so that's really cool about the FNFTs and the whole visual. I'm sure like there's going to be more. There's going to be probably on Paintswap, because I saw on their little roadmap they're going to have its own specific section right there. So, and we were even able to click.
We're very excited to be working with them. They're fantastic people.
Well, I want to know more about the. I put the screen back on me, but I want to know more about like Paintswap and that partnership or whatever you're doing. Is there anything that you can say about that, or are we still going to keep that under wraps?
Basically, we've got a few of the people who are also in a similar space on Fantom, all in a chat with us, and we are discussing ways to standardize FNFTs and how you communicate what's inside them. That's pretty much the extent of it. They're doing most of the technical aspects. We're just kind of, helping communicate, hey, here's what our system says. Please teach your system to speak its language.
Okay. Interesting. Oh man. I can just so see that taking over, right? Because you got like just regular OpenSea NFTs. It's like, dude, you could have FNFTs come on to OpenSea, do that.
We are on OpenSea, but OpenSea is not a very friendly place toward anything that goes outside of art. Paintswap is pushing the entire thing forward. They are probably the most innovative marketplace I'm aware of. So
And that's hilarious to think about. You're like, oh, by the way, when it comes to an NFT marketplace, oh yeah, there's a small one on Fantom called Paintbrush is really pushing the limits. You're like, what the heck?
it is. OpenSea does not care about innovation. I mean, hey, if you're OpenSea, feel free to get in touch with me and prove me wrong. But my experience with those guys has been they are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year on fees, and they have no real motivation to do anything else because they're making a lot of money and they don't have to work.
They already got their situation all panned out. They're good to go.
I mean, I can't entirely blame them. I just wish that they'd actually pass it off to someone who, wants to push it forward.
Understood. So, okay. So, overall, let's just wrap it up here. Thanks for taking the time to hop on. Man, I am excited about like the FNFTs. I'm telling you, I'm personally going to be looking forward to all the updates and development utility. Tell the audience more. What's the best way how to follow you?
So, best way to follow along with our progress is definitely to go ahead, follow our Twitter, join our Telegram, join our Discord. You want to get in touch with me personally? I am pretty much always online. Telegram and Discord. I'll get back to you within a day or two.
Sounds great. I'll leave all the links in the description. It was a pleasure, and I'll see you next time.
Absolutely great time, Professor. Appreciate it.